My brother threw a fake birthday party the night before my wedding to sabotage me. My parents supported him, but when I sent an email exposing their lies to the entire family, they were left isolated, and I had to get a restraining order against them. I'm 31 years old, work in software sales, and I swear when I got married, I thought that was going to be the happiest day of my life. You know, typical fairy tale and all that stuff. But turns out my brother Marcus, who's 28, and basically a freelancer who does I don't know what on the internet, decided that my wedding was the perfect opportunity to prove he's a great asshole. And my parents, well, they decided to support him in that stupidity, which basically destroyed whatever relationship might have been left between us. I guess I should start from the beginning, so you understand why this affected me so much and why I ended up doing what I did. Marcus and I were never super close. Honestly. We grew up in a normal house, middle class, parents who worked a lot but were always there for the important stuff, or so I thought. The thing is, Marcus was always the baby of the family, the spoiled one, the one who could do whatever he wanted without consequences. I was the older brother, the responsible one, the one who had to set an example and all that crap. When we were kids, it didn't bother me that much, like, okay, he's the younger one, it's normal they spoil him a bit. But as we grew up, that dynamic became increasingly toxic because Marcus learned he could manipulate my parents and get away with absolutely everything. I'll give you a quick example of how things were. When I was like 23, fresh out of college and working at my first real job, Marcus was 20 and still living at home, doing nothing productive. I had started paying some rent to my parents because, well, it seemed like the right thing to do. I had an income, and they had supported me through college. Marcus paid nothing, obviously, and when I suggested that maybe he should contribute to, or at least look for a part-time job, my parents told me not to interfere. That Marcus was finding his path, and I didn't understand the pressure he felt. Can you believe it? Me working 50 hours a week and paying rent, and him doing nothing, but I was the one who didn't understand pressure. That kind of thing happened constantly. So anyway, the years passed and I basically distanced myself a bit from the family. Not dramatically or anything, but I stopped going to all the gatherings, stopped sharing so much of my life with them. I met Sophie like 4 years ago at a work conference. She's in digital marketing, and yeah, it was love at first sight or something that cheesy. She's amazing, seriously, super smart, funny, and most importantly, she supported me when things with my family started getting truly horrible. We got engaged 2 years ago and started planning the wedding almost immediately. We wanted something relatively big, not excessive but with all our friends and family, at a nice hotel like 8 hours away from where my parents and Marcus lived. We sent out the invitations 6 months in advance, like you're supposed to. Everyone confirmed, including my parents and Marcus. I was genuinely excited because I thought, well, maybe this is an opportunity to reconnect, for them to see that I'm happy and have built a good life. Sophie and I paid for everything ourselves. We didn't want to ask anyone for money. And trust me, it wasn't cheap. We're talking like $40,000 total, between the hotel, food, photographer, the whole production. It was important to us because we wanted it to be memorable, you know, that day that only happens once in a lifetime and all that stuff. So, exactly 2 weeks before the wedding, I get a message from my cousin Laura. She forwards me a photo of a digital invitation that Marcus had sent through Facebook. And when I saw that, I literally felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. The invitation said, and I swear I'm not exaggerating. You're all invited to celebrate my 28th birthday this Friday at 7 p.m. at my house. It's going to be incredible, with DJ, open bar, and lots of fun. Don't miss it. The Friday he mentioned was exactly the night before my wedding. The night before my fucking wedding that he had confirmed he was attending 6 months earlier. I called Marcus immediately. Obviously. He answered all casual like nothing, and when I asked him what the hell he was thinking with that party, he told me, and I quote this verbatim because I'll never forget this phrase, "Oh yeah, I just thought it would be fun to celebrate with everyone before you get married. I didn't think it would be a problem." I told him his birthday wasn't even that Friday, that his real birthday was 2 weeks later, and he just laughed and said that's exactly why, that he was celebrating early because the real day fell on a weekday and nobody would be able to come. I explained, with all the patience I could muster, that people weren't going to be able to drive 8 hours to my wedding on Saturday if they stayed up late at his party on Friday. His response was, "Well, everyone can decide where they want to go. I can't control what people do." I hung up and called my parents. My mom answered, and I told her everything. I expected, I don't know, maybe for her to talk to Marcus and tell him to stop being such an asshole, to cancel that ridiculous party, or at least move it to another date. But no. What she told me was, "Oh, honey, you know how Marcus is. He doesn't mean it maliciously. He just wants to celebrate his birthday with family." I explained that his birthday was 2 weeks later, that he literally made up that date to sabotage my wedding, and she just said, "Don't be dramatic. Nobody's sabotaging anything. People can go to both things." I reminded her the hotel was 8 hours away. "Well, then they'll leave early Saturday morning." I told her the wedding was at 2 p.m., that it was physically impossible to arrive if they left Saturday morning. "Well, I don't know what you want me to tell you, Ethan. Your brother has the right to celebrate his birthday too." At that moment, I knew my parents were going to choose him. Because they had done it my whole life. Every time there was a conflict between us, every time I needed something, and so did he. It was always Marcus first. But a part of me, a stupid and optimistic part, thought that maybe this time would be different. That my wedding was something important enough for them to prioritize. I was wrong, obviously. The next few days were absolute chaos. I started getting messages from relatives asking me what was up with Marcus's party, if I knew about it, if I was okay with it. I explained the situation to everyone, told them Marcus had planned this deliberately, and my parents refused to intervene. Most people, my uncles, my cousins, family friends who had known us for years, everyone told me it was ridiculous, and they were obviously going to my wedding. But some, especially those who lived closer to my parents, started sending those uncomfortable messages like, "Oh, I don't know. It's just that I live near Marcus and your wedding is so far away. Maybe I'll go to his birthday and send you a gift." Each one of those messages felt like another small betrayal. I talked to my dad 3 days before the wedding. He had been avoiding me, not answering my calls, but he finally picked up the phone. I begged him. And I'm not ashamed to admit, I begged him to please come to my wedding, that Marcus could celebrate his birthday any other day, that this was important to me. He told me they had already confirmed they were going to Marcus's party, that he had bought alcohol and food, that it would be very rude to cancel on him now. "It's just a party, Ethan. Don't be selfish. Your brother also deserves to have his family there on his birthday." I yelled at him. I think it was the only time in my life I yelled at my dad that it wasn't his real birthday, that all of this was a plan to ruin my wedding. "Enough with the drama, Ethan. Go get married and leave us alone." And he hung up on me. Sophie found me crying in the kitchen that night. I had never cried in front of her like that, like sobbing like a little kid, but I couldn't help it. She hugged me and told me it didn't matter who came, that we were getting married anyway and it was going to be perfect. And she was right, honestly. But in that moment, it hurt so much. It hurt to know my parents had chosen a fake birthday party of my brother's over my wedding. It hurt to know Marcus had won again, that his whim was more important than my special day. And the Friday before the wedding, Sophie and I were already at the hotel, coordinating the final details. My phone wouldn't stop ringing with photos my cousins were sending me of Marcus's party. And when I say party, I put it in quotes because it was pathetic. Like 10 people had shown up, basically my parents, a couple of old neighbors, and some random friends of Marcus who probably went for the free alcohol. There was no DJ, just Marcus playing music from his laptop. The house looked kind of empty and sad. My cousins sent me photos, with messages like, "Look at this amazing party your parents missed your wedding for, haha." It made me laugh, but also made me angrier. You know what I mean? Like Marcus hadn't even bothered to throw a real party, and still my parents had prioritized that over my wedding. Saturday dawned perfect. It was sunny. The hotel looked beautiful. The flowers arrived flawless. Sophie was radiant, seriously. I had never seen her so beautiful. My uncles, my cousins, all our friends, everyone was there. The ceremony was exactly as we had planned it. Emotional, but not cheesy, meaningful. When the officiant said I could kiss the bride, everyone applauded and cheered. and for a moment I completely forgot about Marcus and my parents. For a moment, it was just Sophie and me starting our life together. The reception was incredible. The food was perfect. The cake turned out spectacular. The music had everyone dancing. My Uncle Miguel gave a really nice toast, where he talked about how he had watched me grow up and how proud he was of me. My cousin Laura hugged me and said, "Your parents are idiots for missing this, but we're here and we love you." I was genuinely happy. I thought, well, at least I have these people. At least they value me. And then my phone rang. It was my mom. Sophie looked at me with that "don't answer" face, but I, like an idiot, answered. My mom was crying, hysterical, screaming about how dare I manipulate the whole family against them, that because of me, Marcus's party had been a failure, that now all the cousins were mad at them, that I was selfish and ungrateful. I didn't even let her finish. I hung up on her and turned off my phone. Sophie asked if I was okay, and I told her yes, that I wasn't going to let them ruin that moment too. When we came back from the honeymoon, we went to Greece. It was amazing. Very necessary after all that drama. I decided I had to set things straight with the whole family. I wrote a long email. And when I say long, I mean like 3 pages, explaining chronologically everything that had happened. I explained that Marcus had planned his party 2 weeks before my wedding, that my parents had known about my wedding 6 months in advance, that I had tried to talk to them multiple times, that they had hung up on me and basically told me their presence at Marcus's party was more important than being at my wedding. I included screenshots of conversations, of the invitations, of everything, and I sent it to the entire extended family, to everyone who had been asking what was up with the whole situation. The responses were overwhelmingly supportive. My uncles, my cousins, even some family friends who had known my parents for decades, everyone said some variation of, "This is unacceptable," and "I can't believe they did that." Several of them told me they were going to talk to my parents directly. My Aunt Carmen, who is my mom's sister, called my parents and told them she was ashamed of them. How dare they miss their son's wedding for such a stupid party, and that until they apologized to me, she didn't want to know anything about them. Other uncles and cousins did the same. Basically, the entire family cut them off. And that's where things got truly ugly. My parents, instead of acknowledging they had fucked everything up, decided I was the villain. They started sending their own emails to the family saying I was lying, that they had wanted to go to my wedding, but I had told them they weren't welcome. Absolute lie. That Sophie had manipulated me to distance myself from them. Another ridiculous lie. That I had always hated Marcus, and this was my revenge for not being the favorite son. Each email they sent was more delusional than the last. In one, they even said I had physically abused Marcus when we were kids, which is completely false and frankly offensive. Marcus also joined the circus. He sent a super long email, like 5 pages, where he painted himself as the victim of everything. He said, I had always treated him badly, that our parents had protected him from my constant abuse, that his birthday party had been an attempt to reconnect with the family, but I had sabotaged it with my selfish wedding. Yes, you read that right. My wedding was selfish, but his fake party wasn't. He said he had tried to make peace with me millions of times, but I always rejected him. It was all lies, obviously, but it was so well written, so convincing in its victim tone, that I worried some people might believe him. Fortunately, almost nobody believed him. The family knew Marcus. They knew his history of being dramatic and manipulative, but the fact that he and my parents were spreading those lies had me furious. It wasn't enough that they had ruined my wedding. Now they also wanted to ruin my reputation. Sophie told me to ignore them, to let them sink in their own toxicity, but I couldn't let it go. I wanted them to pay. I wanted them to feel even a fraction of the pain they had caused me. 2 months after the wedding, my mom called me from a number I didn't recognize. I answered thinking maybe it was something important, an emergency or something. It wasn't. It was her, my dad, and Marcus on a conference call. They told me they needed my help to restore their reputation with the family. That thanks to me, all the cousins and uncles had cut them off, that nobody answered their calls, that they felt isolated and alone. They asked me, "No," they demanded, that I send another email to the family saying it had all been a misunderstanding, that I had exaggerated the situation, that they were good people who had made a small mistake. I told them no. I told them they had created this situation, that they had chosen a stupid party over my wedding, that they had lied about me afterwards, and that now they were facing the consequences of their actions. Marcus started screaming that I was a selfish son of a bitch. My mom started crying, saying how could I do this to them, that they had raised me, and this was how I repaid them. My dad just kept saying, "You're going to regret this, Ethan. You're going to regret turning your back on your family." I hung up on them and blocked them everywhere. I thought that would be the end, that eventually they'd get tired and leave me alone. I was wrong. 3 weeks later, Sophie and I were sleeping when the doorbell rang. It was 4 inches the morning. At first, I thought it was an emergency. Someone had an accident or something. I put on some sweatpants and went down to open the door. It was my parents and Marcus. My dad started screaming immediately to open the door, that they needed to talk to me now. Marcus was screaming too, saying incoherent things about how I had ruined his life. My mom was just crying. I told them through the door to leave, that it was 4 inches the morning and I was going to call the police if they didn't leave. My dad yelled that this was their last chance, that if I didn't open the door and fix things with the family, they would never forgive me. I repeated that they should leave. They didn't leave. They stayed there screaming and ringing the doorbell for like 20 minutes. The neighbors started turning on their lights. When I told them my parents and brother were at my door at 4 a.m., refusing to leave, the operator said they'd send a patrol immediately. The police arrived in like 10 minutes. By that point, my parents and Marcus were sitting in my yard. My dad was still yelling things, but he already sounded tired. The officers asked them to identify themselves and explain what they were doing there. My dad told them they were visiting their son, that it was a family matter. One of the officers asked me if I had invited these people to my house at 4 a.m. I told them no, that in fact I had asked them multiple times to leave. The officers told my parents and Marcus they had to leave immediately, or they would be arrested for disturbing the peace. They left, finally. But Marcus yelled as he got in the car that this wasn't over, that he was going to make sure I paid for everything. One of the officers stayed with us for like 30 minutes to take a report and recommended we consider a restraining order if they kept harassing us. Sophie was shaking, in shock that my family had gotten to that point. I just felt empty, like emotionally exhausted. It was official. There was no turning back. My family was completely broken. The next day, I called a lawyer. I explained the whole situation to him, showed him the threatening emails, told him about the 4 a.m. thing, everything. He told me I definitely had grounds for a restraining order. It took us like a week to gather all the necessary documentation, screenshots of messages, the police report, witness statements, some cousins wrote letters supporting me, and we filed it in court. The process was faster than I thought. My parents and Marcus were notified. They had the opportunity to present their version at a hearing, where they basically painted themselves as misunderstood victims and said I was an ungrateful son who was attacking them legally for having prioritized Marcus once. The judge didn't believe them. He read all the emails, saw the pattern of harassment, heard about the 4 a.m. thing, and granted a 2-year restraining order. That means they can't come near me, Sophie, or our house. They can't contact us in any way. If they do, they go to jail. When we left the courthouse, Sophie hugged me and told me she was proud of me for standing up for myself. My cousins sent me messages of support. My Aunt Carmen called me and told me I had done the right thing, that sometimes biological family doesn't deserve to be in your life. And she was right, but it still hurt. It hurt to know things had gone so far that I had to get a legal order to keep my own parents away from me. It's been like 3 months since the restraining order. My parents and Marcus have respected it, probably because they know if they violate it, they'll face real consequences. I've heard through the grapevine they're still sending occasional emails to other family members, trying to get allies, but nobody pays attention to them. The family is firmly on my side, which helps. Sophie and I finally got to go on that extended honeymoon we had postponed because of all the legal drama, 2 weeks in Japan, that were exactly what we needed to reconnect and remember why we got married in the first place. I'm not going to lie and say I'm completely okay with all this. There are days when I think about my childhood, about the good moments that did exist before everything became so toxic, and I get sad. And there are days when I wonder if I could have handled things differently, if maybe I should have been more patient or more understanding. But then I remember they chose a fake party over my wedding. I remember the emails full of lies. I remember 4 a.m. And I know I did a right thing. You can't have people like that in your life. It doesn't matter if they share your blood or not. Sophie tells me the family you choose is more important than the family you're born into, and I think she's right. I have my cousins, my uncles, my friends, and above all, I have her. That's more than enough.